Still sitting here because I'm going to keep reading. I'm not pausing. Here we go. Chapter 4, page 55. That's where we're picking up, and it's called Mummies. And if you look at that picture, it says nested mummy cases. Nested means that they like fit inside of each other. There's a little Russian doll. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like this big, and like you open it and take it out, and then there's another little doll inside, and you open it and take it out. Those are nested dolls. So each one is a little bit smaller that they could fit inside of each other. Mummies. Normally, when an animal or a person dies, the body begins to decay. That means that the skin, hair, muscles, and other parts of the body start to rot away, and finally, there is nothing left but bones. A mummy is a dead body that has been protected from decay. This is going to be interesting for me. The first Egyptian mummies were probably made by accident. Page 56. The ancient Egyptians needed the land near the Nile for farming, so they buried their dead in the nearby desert. The hot desert sand dried out the bodies very quickly. They didn't decay, they became mummies. The Egyptians studied these desert mummies. They learned from them how to protect the body for the next life. Annie says, oh wow! Egyptologists think that the ancient Egyptians, made over 70 million mummies. Making a mummy. It took a long time to make a mummy. The work was done by a team of priests. Egyptians believed the god Anubis watched over mummy making. Anubis had the body of a man and the head of a jackal. Jack tells us what a jackal is. A jackal is a kind of wild dog that lives in Asia and North Africa. So the chief priest wore a mask of a jackal. The place where the priests worked was called the Beautiful House, page 57. Everything in the Beautiful House was done with great care. All right, get ready. It's mummy making time. First, all the organs, except the heart, were taken out of the body. The ancient Egyptians believed that the gods weighed a person's heart when he or she tried to enter the next life. The weight of the heart would tell the gods if the person had lived a good life on earth. Interesting. Other organs were put in special jars to be buried with the mummy. Next, the priests washed the body with wine. They said prayers. They rubbed the body with oils and spices. Then the priest covered the body with a kind of salt called natron. Natron worked like the desert sand, only better. It helped dry the body even more quickly and keep it from decaying. And I love what Jack says. Jack says, oh man, the ancient Egyptians didn't know what a person's brain was for, so they threw it away. Other organs were put in special jars to be buried with the mummy, but they didn't even bury the brain. They threw it away because they didn't know what it was for. Oh man. Page 58. Finally, the priests laid the body on a slanted table. They said more prayers. Then they left the body to dry for about 40 days. Oh my goodness. That's a long time. When the body had dried out, it was wrapped in strips of linen. The linen had been soaked in resin. Annie tells us that resin is the sticky stuff that comes from trees or plants. As they dried, the linen strips became very hard. The priests wrapped magic charms, lucky charms, magic charms, in the mummy's linen strips. The Egyptians believed these charms would bring good luck and protect the person in the next life. Jack says some mummies were buried with more than 100 charms. The priests wrapped and wrapped until the body was covered from head to toe. Sometimes a mask of the person's face was placed over the linen strips. This was to help the Ba and Ka recognize the person underneath. Annie says the layer of linen strips on some mummies were several inches thick. Page 60. Annie tells us about a word that we learned today, sarcophagus. Or was that last week? I don't know. Sometimes the mummy's case was placed in a stone coffin called a sarcophagus. When the body was fully wrapped, it was ready to be placed in its mummy case. There was usually a painting of the person's face on the mummy case, too. Many mummy cases were decorated with paintings and writing. The paintings often showed the person entering the next life and meeting the gods. The writing spelled out prayers and magic spells. Early mummy cases were rectangular boxes like this one. Page 61. Later, mummy cases were shaped more like the mummy inside. When the mummy was sealed inside its case, it was ready to be taken to its tomb. We talked about tomb today. A tomb is a burial place, says Jack. We talked today about what? Tomb robbers. Page 62 and 63 talk about amulets. The magic charms. The magic charms wrapped in the mummy's linen strips are called amulets. Some amulets were little statues of the gods. Others were symbols like a set of stairs leading to the next life. This is all stuff we read today, guys. Many amulets were in the shape of a beetle called a scarab. The Egyptians believed that each day at dawn, a giant scarab pushed the sun into the sky. Page 63. Scarab amulets were a symbol of rebirth in the next life. They often had wings. Have you guys seen the movie Aladdin? Because when he is in that giant pyramid in the beginning of the story, isn't that an amulet? That's a scarab. It totally is. I know it. I haven't seen Aladdin in a really long time, but it looks just like this picture. That thing that Jafar tries to steal from the pyramid and then like it flies back off into the dirt. I'm just going to keep going because now I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Anyway, another very popular amulet is called the Eye of Horus. The Egyptians believed the god Horus lost his eye in a fight with his evil uncle. It was magically put back by the god Tot. Egyptians thought that eyes of Horus painted on mummy cases would allow mummies to see outside. Weird stuff. I feel like it's going to get weirder because the next page, 65, chapter 5, talks about Egyptian funerals. Great. Egyptian funerals were very big events. They were meant to send the dead person safely into the next life. On the day a mummy was taken to its tomb, family and friends formed a funeral procession. The funeral procession was sort of like a parade. The procession started at the dead person's home. It included family members, friends, priests, and servants. Page 66. It was important to have a lot of people in the funeral procession. The dead person's family sometimes paid people to walk with them and mourn the person's death. Oh my gosh, this is super weird. So Annie says to mourn means to show sadness. So when someone that we know dies, we mourn. We show that we're sad that they have passed away. So now I just have to read this to you again because this is nuts. The dead person's family sometimes paid people to walk with them and mourn the person's death. These people might not have even known the person in life, but they would scream and cry and throw dust on themselves to show their grief. The next page says if they did an especially good job of acting sad, they would be paid more. Can you believe it? I can't. So I could die, and then my family would pay people that I didn't know to come and be part of my funeral procession. And even though they didn't know me, if they wanted to be paid a good amount of money, they would have to act and pretend like they were super sad that I died. And they would cry and scream and throw dust on themselves to show how sad they were. What a great job. Page 67. The people in the funeral procession brought things they thought the dead person would need in the next life. They carried food and drink, weapons, tools, and musical instruments. Oh, if the person being buried was a child, they might even bring toys. The funeral procession first went to the beautiful house. There, the mummy in its mummy case was placed on a wooden barge. We learned barge, flat bottom boat. Oxen dragged the barge across the desert to the place where the mummy was to be buried. As the procession crossed the sand, priests said prayers and recited magic spells. The ancient Egyptians believed it was important that everything be done right, or the person would never get to the next life. Page 68. When the procession arrived at the tomb, there was a special ceremony. It was called the opening of the mouth. The priest said a prayer. Then he touched the mummy's mouth. Egyptians believed the opening of the mouth ceremony made it possible for the dead person to eat, drink, and speak in the next life. Finally, the mummy was ready to be laid in its tomb. Turn the page to learn about the Book of the Dead. This is what Hutepi was looking for today, right? She was looking for the Book of the Dead. Yeah, word. Ancient Egyptians believed they would have to travel through the underworld to get to the next life. This journey was very dangerous. To help them make the journey safely, mummies were buried with prayers, magic spells, and maps of the underworld. These prayers and spells and maps were called the Book of the Dead. Page 71. The Book of the Dead wasn't really a book. The spells and maps were written and drawn on papyrus scrolls. The Egyptians believed that if the dead person followed the directions in the Book of the Dead and passed all the tests of the gods, he or she would live happily forever in the next life. Hutepi was saying, well, the ghost of Hutepi today was telling Jack and Annie about the things that she was going to have to do. Didn't she say like poisonous snakes and something about fire? That was what she was going to have to do. Cool. Next chapter, chapter 6, pyramids. Love pyramids. Think they're awesome. Page 73, the Age of Pyramids. Early pharaohs and other wealthy Egyptians had burial tombs made of mud bricks. These tombs are called mastabas. That's hard. Jack says mastaba is the Arabic word for bench. Mastabas looked like very large benches. They had flat roofs and slanted sides. The mummy wasn't actually kept in the mastaba. I hope I don't have to say that word that many more times because I feel like I'm not saying it right. It was buried underneath in a room called a burial chamber. Ooh, that's where the kids are. Sometimes the burial chamber was as much as 80 feet below the mastaba. Ooh. So check out this picture, and it shows you that there's the flat roof and the slanted sides, and then Jack says mastabas were often built close to each other, and a group of them was called a city of the dead. Kind of like a cemetery that we have now. Page 75. Annie's telling us that an architect is a person who plans buildings. The first pyramid was created by an Egyptian architect and priest named Imhotep. Imhotep's pharaoh was King Zoser. King Zoser wanted the most wonderful burial place that had ever been built. So Imhotep planned a giant stone mastaba for King Zoser. It would be the largest mastaba in all Egypt. As the giant mastaba was being built, King Zoser decided he wanted something even better. Imhotep didn't know what to do. He started to make the stone mastaba bigger, then he got another idea. Imhotep decided to put a smaller mastaba on top of the first one. He put another mastaba on top of that, then, page 76, another and another. Finally, Zoser's burial place was a stack of 6 mastabas. Imhotep had created the first pyramid. Imhotep's pyramid was nearly 200 feet high. After he died, the Egyptians worshipped Imhotep as one of their gods. Jack says at the bottom, Imhotep's pyramid is called a step pyramid. It looks like a set of steps going up toward the sky. Page 77, step pyramids were built for several pharaohs who ruled after King Zoser. Then Egyptians began to build another kind of pyramid. The new kind of pyramid started as a step pyramid, but once it was built, the steps were filled in to make the sides smooth. Some people think this smooth-sided pyramid was made to look like a ray of sunlight. It is the pyramid shape we know best today. So the pyramid that we know isn't even the first pyramid that was ever made. That's cool to know. The pyramids of Giza. The most famous Egyptian pyramids are the 3 smooth-sided pyramids of Giza. They were built more than 4,500 years ago, and all 3 are still standing today. Page 78, the largest of the Giza pyramids is called the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid is nearly 500 feet tall. And he says the Great Pyramid is the biggest stone building ever built. Page 79, the Great Pyramid was built for a pharaoh named Khufu. Cool name, Khufu. In 1954, Egyptologists found a wooden boat buried near the Great Pyramid. The boat was over 140 feet long. They think it was probably the barge that led Khufu's funeral procession and carried his mummy to its tomb. Jack says the base, the bottom of the Great Pyramid, would cover 10 football fields. That's humongous. And Annie says Khufu's barge was made from over 650 separate pieces of wood. That must have been special. Page 80, building the pyramids. Took many years to build a pyramid. It also took thousands of workers. Egyptologists think the workers used wooden rollers to move giant stones across the desert. Some of these stones weighed over 4,000 pounds. No one really knows exactly how the workers put the giant stones in place. Most Egyptologists think they built large ramps to raise the stones up the sides of the pyramid. Page 81. When the pyramid was finished, the ramps were torn down. Many people think the work on the pyramids was done by slaves. This is not true. Almost all the work was done by farmers during the flood season. The farmers were paid to help build the pyramids, but most of them worked for a reason more important than money. They believed building the pyramids would help them get to the next life when they died. Ooh, have you guys ever seen the Great Sphinx? He's cool. Page 83, the Great Sphinx guards the pyramids of Giza. A sphinx is a make-believe creature with the body of a lion and the head of a hawk, a ram, or a person. The Great Sphinx has the body of a lion and the head of a pharaoh named Khafre. King Khafre's pyramid is next to the Great Pyramid of King Khufu. The Great Sphinx was carved from a rock mountain. It is the largest statue from ancient times still standing today. Okay, we've been reading for almost 18 minutes, so you guys can pause, take a break, come back. I'm going to keep reading, and we're going to finish the rest of the book. Okay, see you in a minute. Bye.